Good evening. My name is Bayo Akomolafe, and it is that time of the year again, probably the most exciting moments for me when I get to gather with friends, with strangers, with people that I know, people that I don't know and have never met, in a collective ritual of inquiry and the pursuit of the exquisite, things that are unsaid, especially things that are unsayable. Um, and then we get to do this together for a couple of weeks, for a couple of months, to ask questions that most are not asking, to sidestep and sidle the logic of the familiar, to distress the habitual ways that we conceive and we express and we pursue and we articulate reality. I just had a conversation a while ago with a friend of mine, a dear sister in a place called Sandpoint, Idaho. You know yourself. Um, and she was talking about why I teach. It came up in conversation, the motivations for my teaching and why I am engaged and excited, especially in this time of the year when I get to do this work with people around the planet. And one thing we agreed on quite ecstatically is that my work and my teaching, if I might think of it in that sense, my work or my teaching, isn't about evangelization. Perhaps the most horrifying thing for me would be to copy myself, to see my thoughts or my concepts literally copied and just taking as some literal truth. Image copy isn't the idea, self proliferation isn't the idea here. Something else is is desired, if you will, with my engagements. And it's perhaps best shared in a quick story. Well, not quite a story, but the outline of a story, the kinds of stories that I grew up with as a young boy in West Africa, in Nigeria. Those stories were about entertaining the strange, right? You would have a tortoise in a forest, and the protagonist is invited to entertain this trickster and this otherwise ignoble and abominable creature. Or a child, an orphan, would be invited through the plot and the run of things and the story to hold space for an old woman and to listen to her instructions, where the easiest thing to do might be to run away. I grew up in cultures that proliferated the idea of radical hospitality, of opening ourselves up to the strange. And even in my Christian upbringing, the idea of entertaining angels, right? Angels flying across, and you never know how the extraordinary is hidden or enfolded within the ordinary. And so the idea, the invocation, the blessing, the sermon was open your gates to the angel, open your gates to the ordinary. You might not know how the ordinary might be the container for the divine, if you will. And in a sense, that very idea, that topos, that theme, that trope guides and motivates my work. It's about what other things culture can do. What other ways can we speak? What other colors are not yet seen? What other sensitivities and sensibilities and affectivities and capacities and thoughts and imaginations and feelings? What other tentacular futures are hidden and folded, braided into the ordinary, temporarily excluded by our habitual modes of speaking and our habitual paradigms of thought? What else can culture do? What else exceeds culture, if you will? What exceeds culture? Or in the very ecstatic expression of this sister that I spoke with, is there nothing new? Is there nothing surprising? Is there nothing else? We Will Dance with Mountains is and has been a vocation to stay within the pause, to stay within what I would call Selah, the place where the text is no longer enough, where language no longer serves the purposes that we might deploy it for, where making sense requires us to lose our way, where clarity obscures, and where confusion might be more instrumental to the kinds of projects that are emerging urgently and necessarily in our time than the vocation to arrive summarily at a solution. And that is why I do this over and over again. But it is not an I per se, it is a village. And this village is a village of tricksters and teachers and professors and academics and intellectuals and poets and artists and grandmothers and children and painters and singers and dancers. And all of us together are moving to this music, this strange streaming sound, this syncopation that is disrupting the groove of the imperial march of continuity. That is what this is about. So I would like to invite you to join us. Registration is still going on, and our first festivals, our first sessions, classes, I'm not exactly sure what to call these, open on the 3rd of September. But in a few days we will have to close the gates. We will have to shut things down and then unfurl the blanket of care and pause and wild trickster-like explorations where new kinds of thinking and thought and logics might take root. If you're feeling that you have attended this before, you probably haven't. But if you're feeling that this might be a time to upset the political projects of our days, which seem to be co-constituting each other and not really arriving at something new, not really arriving at the exilic, the exquisite, the fugitive, the impossible, and not for the sake of speaking the impossible, but for the sake of addressing the impasses of the present, then you might be the right one for this exploration. You might be in the right place. You might be the one we want to serve a cup of tea to. And that's the simple invitation of this course, of this festival, of this quilombola, of this expedition, of this rite of passage, to be served and to be disrupted and to be open. I welcome you and I invite you to We Will Dance with Mountains, Vunja. Thank you.